How's it going? I am Luka of Bills Chat, of course, and I was not on Bills Chat Live with Josh. Tonight, it was Josh with Stokes, of course, to talk about the Bills and Giants Sunday night football game and everything that they had thoughts on when it comes to that game. But I still wanted to get my locks in there. I asked Josh to kind of just hold tight there. We had a good bounce back week last week, 2-1, including the 2-unit play hitting, which hitting's an understatement. We smashed it out of the park on that one. San Francisco easily, and when I say easily, I mean easily cleared that 3-point gap of which they needed to cover the spread. They dominated the Cowboys and kind of finished off a very good bounce back week after that 0-3-0 week we had prior, bringing us to currently, as you can see right below me here, to a 7-8-0 record, just in the red at negative 0.95 units. Hopefully this week we get back into the green. And the first game that I want to talk about and bring you to is actually out in Cincinnati, where we will have the Seahawks visiting Cincinnati. And when it comes to this game, I find it very interesting. So I'm looking at DraftKings right now. 35% of the money is currently on Seattle money line. That means 65, of course, is on the Bengals. And then a 67% of the money currently on DraftKings is on the Bengals to cover that 3-point spread. And I believe that public money is really, truly a reaction to what we saw in the desert last week with Cincinnati absolutely covering that 3-point spread that they had down there in Arizona. And it was an impressive win. I think overall it's hard to win in the NFL, and they dominated that game. Mainly Jamar Chase had his way. And I think that's kind of always been the key to Cincinnati's success is you need Jamar Chase, you need your T. Higgins, of course. You need your passing game is really the story here, right? You need your passing game to basically run the show for the Bengals. If the Bengals don't have that game, that passing game going, I feel like they can stall out easily in games. Where my mind goes with this game in particular is I think the Seahawks are extremely underrated when it comes to their defense. I say that where they're still respected, but they have a second-year guy in Reek Woolen on one side. You have a high-end first-round pick corner opposite him. We saw I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now. I know it starts with a W. I want to say Weatherspoon, but the reason I'm not saying it is because I can't be confident in it. But I know he's an absolute stud. It's the cornerback out of Illinois. He was an absolute beast in that Monday night game out in the Meadowlands against the Giants, although the Giants are spiraling right now, so that doesn't say too much. But overall, I do feel like this defense as a unit is really starting to click. Jamal Adams should be back for them, although I look at him as kind of an undersized linebacker more than anything else. He's not exactly what I call a coverage specialist, but I think the Seattle defense overall is really humming well. And Cincinnati, even though they had an impressive win, maybe it was kind of, how do I say this politely? Not overly impressive in my mind, where I even like Joe Burrow definitely looked more like Joe Burrow of the past than he has what we saw this previous season or in this season. But overall, I just don't think it's still all the way there. I don't think Joe Burrow's truly all the way back. I think Jamar Chase is great. T. Higgins had a full practice this Friday, but he was limited the other 2 days that were listed on the injury report. He is questionable at this moment in time. He's had his struggles as well when it comes to this season. So for that reason and that reason, I'd love the Seahawks to cover 3 points in Cincinnati. Now, you see the asterisk right here on the FanDuel line. The FanDuel line at this point in time is currently 2.5 at plus 100, or essentially even money, of course. If you wanted the plus 3.5, that would bring you to this minus 142. Of course, you're essentially buying that point to have the hook. If the Seahawks were to lose by 3, you don't get a push like this line would for DraftKings. You would, of course, get the win as you have that half point. You have that hook. But overall, I do like the Seahawks. I can actually see the Seahawks winning this game. I think the line is more of an overreaction to what we saw with the Bengals in Arizona than anything else, and I think the public sees it that way as well. I do like the over. I'm surprised that the over-under is at 44.5. But realistically, I just had to go with the game line, had to go with the Seahawks. I love this. It's essentially one of those games where the public, I can absolutely understand why they like the Bengals as much as they do, and they want to get bounce back. They've shown in years past that this is exactly what they do. Maybe they just had a little bit of a later start than normal, but this Seahawks team, in my mind, at least on the defensive side for sure, is very real, and I think the offense is still good enough to really make things happen. There is a somewhat concern with Geno Smith and that knee. He did get full practice in all week, though. I think he'll still be able to do what he can do when it comes to just moving around the pocket, moving around just enough to make plays happen, even against a great pass rush against the Bengals. And overall, I do believe that they should be able to cover those 3 points. So give me the Seahawks +3 at Cincinnati playing the Bengals. The second game this week on my locks, we are actually going to go out to Los Angeles, and we are going to go against those Cardinals that the Bengals played last week. And this week it is Arizona at LA to play the Rams. And this game is intriguing to me. The Cardinals are just dogs. They're absolute scrappiness personified. They're this incredibly gritty team this year that it's shocking still to my senses that they're able to do what they do week in and week out. The only time they truly felt, these past 2 weeks, Cincinnati, I think, handled them pretty well, but even then they were in the game for the most part. If you take away Jamar Chase and his ability to absolutely shred that secondary, which I will get to in a second here, I do think that they had a very good chance of being competitive in that game. The week prior, San Francisco just outclassed them like they've been doing everyone this season. And then prior to that, of course, they beat the Cowboys, and then they, had an ultimate collapse against the lowly Giants, and the week prior just gave it up in Washington against the Commanders. I think the Cardinals are a very impressive team when it comes to just talent for what they actually produce on the field. But the Rams are also humming really well, and I think Stafford looks good. We have this Puka Nacua emerging after being a fifth-round pick, and could be an incredible 1-2 punch now with Cooper Kupp, who is back as of last week, and he looked absolutely okay, even with that hamstring issue. It's a hard game to really see where it goes. The line being at 7 points actually feels pretty okay to me. There's massive public money, at least on DraftKings and other things I've seen, on the Rams. I think people just truly believe that the Rams are going to blow them out of the water. I don't know if I can trust the Rams defense that much, because I think a couple things here. I think overall the Cardinals offense can still move the ball much better than I believe they should. And 7 points is just enough with a team that's as scrappy as Arizona that I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. Also, over under 48.5. I thought was a decent line. I do like the over in that situation, even in a divisional matchup. I just think there's points to be had. I think also both offenses, even with how well the Rams play, there could be turnovers to be had. Same can be said, though, for the Cardinals. Turnovers are there to be had. When I dug a little deeper, though, I saw one line that was very interesting to me, and I liked it a lot. Like I said, I did have a fondness for the over. 48.5 is not my favorite number, but it's a decent one. And then when I dug a little deeper, I saw that. Rams team total over 27.5. I love the Rams to be able to put up points in the end. I think the Cardinals secondary, especially being without Jalen Thompson, their starting free safety as well, by the way, on top of all of this, they just aren't an impressive coverage. The secondary is just not good. I don't think they have a great linebacker crew when it comes to defending the pass. They can get at the passer decently. Dennis Gardeck is just, don't sleep on the man. He somehow scraps his way to the quarterback every week, it seems like. But overall, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, that offense, the McVay offense, I do believe at home should be able to eat and should be able to do very, very well against this Cardinals defense and just absolutely torch them over the air. 27.5. You're telling me basically the Rams can't score 4 touchdowns against the Cardinals? The funniest part about all of this is I could see this hitting not because of a Rams offensive touchdown, but because there's a defensive touchdown or a special teams play that happens that essentially sets up that over 27.5. The asterisk, by the way, for DraftKings, it is a better line, but the line on DraftKings last I checked was 28.5. That's why the minus 120 at FanDuel to get it at 27.5 currently, in my eyes, is the better play here. Overall, though, I just really, really like the Rams to be able to put up at least 4 touchdowns, get to that 28 number as a team unit. Team total over 27.5. Give it to me, please. Thank you so very much. Last game on the slate here for my locks of week 6 in the NFL. We are going to go back to the state of Ohio, and we are going to go to San Fran at Cleveland. This is a 1 o'clock game. Just to recap here, though, we had Seahawks +3 at Cincinnati, which is a 1 o'clock game, I believe. Then we have LA Rams, team total over 27.5. That is a 4:25 kickoff. And again, we are now back in the state of Ohio. We are in Cleveland, where the 49ers will be visiting the Cleveland Browns for a 1 o'clock game in their own right. Weather doesn't look great. It could be a little bit of a slop fest. San Francisco is the best team in the NFL right now. And it's funny. The first pick I made here is very much against the public eye, it seems like. The public, for what it's worth, just pulling it up now, when it comes to the money line, we have 95% of bets on San Fran money line. That is minus 520, by the way, if you are curious to know what the money line is in this situation. It's one of those situations where I am actually not too awful. Like, I respect Cleveland as a unit at full health. I think their defense can be as good against anyone on any given day. I respect Myles Garrett. There's a reason I have a ticket on him to be potentially Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know how well that looks at this point in time, but it's still early, it's still young and everything like that. I respect the Cleveland defense. I respect that the Cleveland offense at full health should be able to do things. They lose Nick Chubb, of course, in that primetime game against the Steelers. And then on top of it, they're dealing with this Deshaun Watson shoulder injury, where I am intrigued how out of that we saw Dorian Thompson, DTR, start before the bye week against, I can't remember who it was. I don't remember why I'm blanking on this. Saw him start, I believe it was the Ravens, and he put up a stinker. Like, I was, that week, Cleveland was a best bet of mine, and I stuck with it after the Deshaun Watson news came out. Shouldn't have done that, of course. They then, after one game showing, after the bye week, come out, and they are going to be starting P.J. Walker, former XFL legend P.J. Walker. And what that tells me is, obviously, one, they don't have a lot of trust in DTR, and he definitely didn't show anything of why they should think differently. And then two, they just have other options here. And then with that offense not having a Deshaun Watson, it's not like I think Deshaun Watson elevates everyone so much. But you can clearly see some throws where he can be comfortable, and then all of a sudden you have a P.J. Walker. I think they can be efficient. I think they can do okay. But when I saw this line of 9.5, you're telling me the San Francisco 49ers, at full health for the most part, can't walk into Cleveland and win by at least 10? They are buzzing. Nick Bosa should be having an absolute field day, hopefully, against a rookie that he'll be lined up against. A good rookie, mind you, in DeJuan Jones, a guy that during the draft process I said I liked very much so. And he's been up and down a little bit, as a rookie should, but still impressed people within football circles. But now we're talking about Nick Bosa. defensive player of the year level guy going up against him. And they don't have Nick Chubb. They don't have that dominant running back to really do things. We'll probably see a lot more of Kareem Hunt, I would imagine, this week, now that they're coming out of the bye when it comes to Cleveland. But overall, man, I'm going to ride that horse. Last week, San Fran did me good in this spot here. They're the best team in the NFL, and they're going to Cleveland, yes, on a 1 o'clock game, which, by the way, I am normally someone who is very cautious when it comes to West Coast teams coming to Eastern time zone and playing 1 o'clock games. That is very, very dangerous. But they are just so much better. And there is not the starting quarterback for Cleveland. There is not that elite running game. And I don't think they have that game breaker overall on offense that can really cause problems for this absolutely buzzing defense for the Niners. And Brock Purdy's been very impressive. Christian McCaffrey is trying to do his very best to make it not a quarterback that wins the NFL MVP this year. Brock Purdy is also doing a good job at showing that you don't need to be that top-tier elite quarterback and still win an NFL MVP. They are just at the highest of highs, and you have to ride that horse while it's that high, especially against a team that is as down as it is. This is just a situation where you ride that pony through. I love San Fran this year. They are clear-cut, absolute dominant forces like a lot of people expected. I picked them to win the NFC in the preseason. They are showing everyone that had thoughts like I did that they are the team that we thought they were. And this is a game that if you are San Fran, if you are the team we all believe you to be, you should be walking into Cleveland, who is being quarterbacked by a third-string quarterback, and take care of business, win by double digits, and move on with your life. So that is why I expect San Francisco, and I love San Francisco, minus 9.5 at Cleveland against the Browns. You can get it at minus 108 currently on FanDuel. You have to buy that half a point technically in DraftKings. That's why it's such a large gap in spread here, and as at minus 120, because I believe the current live line on DraftKings is 10 even. I just like this. I think San Francisco's an absolute wagon right now. They're a dominant force. They're the best Super Bowl contender at this point in time, and Cleveland just doesn't have things going right now. Even coming out of a bye and everything of that, I just don't see it when you come against an absolute juggernaut that is San Francisco. So these are my picks. I like Seattle +3 at Cincinnati. I like LA and their team total over 27.5 against the Cardinals at home. And then my 2-unit play of this week, my absolute lock of locks this week, is going to be San Fran to cover that 9.5 at Cleveland against the Browns. Thank you so much. Hopefully we get back into the green. It would be lovely to have another 2-1 week. 3-0 week would be great. We've already had one of those this season. Please just hopefully, for the love of higher beings, it is not an 0-3-0 week. Let's get back in the green. Let's do great. Appreciate you for listening and stopping by. You all have a great time. Be responsible in your betting, of course. Be responsible with what you do when it comes to your betting. But let's win. Let's win some money. I always like trying to make sure you can win, because when you win, I win. And then when everyone wins, everyone's happy. Appreciate all of you. You all have a great rest of your day or morning or evening, whatever it is that you stop by to listen to these. Happy betting. Bet responsibly. And let's win some cash. Take care.